What an honor it is to be here and to sit with these two amazing leaders in our industry and patient advocates. We go way back, and I'm getting older. I can't understand why you guys aren't, right? But it's great to be here. And as a former legislator, NCSL to me today has a whole new meaning to it than it did when I was serving as a member of the House. But I just wanted to share a story with you. I'm here wearing really like three hats. One, a former policymaker because of the nature of this conference that you're at. Two, a biotech person who's raised money and invested in biotech companies. But mostly, thirdly, and most importantly, is a patient advocate and a cystic fibrosis dad, because that's how all this happened. It's not how my politics happened. It's how the trajectory of my career changed. Because just by going back in time, I served a few years on the school committee in my town when I was really young. I got elected when I was 19 years old because it was before there was the internet, and my dad was a selectman in Dedham for like 40 years. So I ran for school committee and didn't put my picture on anything, and everyone thought they were voting for my dad, and I won. And it was hilarious because I was a horrible student, and I payback was itch bay. There's children in the room. So payback was funny. So I really fell in love with politics, and I graduated from a Merchant Marine Academy. I didn't end up shipping out on ships like I went to school for because I had to finish my term on the school committee, and I loved it so much I ran for the select board in the town when I was like 21. And by then they figured out it was me, but I must have done something right because I won, all right? So I did that for a few years, and I worked at a company called Clean Harbors Environmental Services, but I wanted to get out of the environmental industry and become a full-time politician, right? Imagine that. And my goal was to be like governor or United States senator or something. And my wife and I, we were married when we were like 24. We had a couple of kids. Life was going great, right? So I retired from Clean Harbors. I said, I'm running for the House of Representatives here in Massachusetts. And I was running against an incumbent who was a member of leadership, Democrat versus Democrat, all the stuff that's not supposed to happen in Massachusetts. But as you can see, I was kind of a troublemaker along the way. And so I decided to run. And while I was running for office, my wife and I found out that we were pregnant with our third kid. And I was like, Yahtzee. I'm like, we'll get that stomach going. We'll put it on a brochure. That's worth like 15 points, right? When mom is pregnant. That's how much of a sick narcissist I was at the time. I've had a ton of therapy and worked a lot of those issues out, but along the way. But so when we found out she was pregnant, there was a genetic screening test for pregnant moms now that didn't exist when we had our first two kids. And they found out my wife was a carrier of a very rare cystic fibrosis mutation. And her OBGYN said, well, dad's gonna go get tested. And I was putting it off and off. I'm like, there's no way we have a kid with CF on the way because our other two kids are healthy. And because I knew everything, I thought that all the kids would have to have it. Because my brother married into a family that had 3 little kids with cystic fibrosis. I played hockey in high school with a kid who had 2 kids with cystic fibrosis. And prior to all of this even happening, we founded the Great Strides Cystic Fibrosis Walk in the town of Dedham. And we raised over a couple $1 million for CF research before this even happened to me. So I kind of believe in like fate's like a crazy thing, right? So I went and got tested, found out I was a carrier. They did an amnio, and we found out we did the amnio on Christmas Eve. They had us rush the sample to the genetic testing lab, ourselves. And I'm like, that was weird. And why'd we have to do that? Well, they wanted to find out, before 21 weeks if, in fact, the unborn baby had cystic fibrosis in the event that we didn't want to continue with the pregnancy. And we found out this baby was going to have CF. And as you can imagine, that completely and utterly rocks your world, right? This is the beginning of a pregnancy in a sense. Well, not the beginning, but early on. We found out the baby's going to be sick. I win an election to become a member of the House of Representatives in Massachusetts, and my whole world changed. I went to work every day, meeting with people like Mark Levin was at Millennium and shifting over to Deborah Dunsire. Henry Tamir was running Genzyme at the time. Josh Boger had this little company called Vertex Pharmaceuticals. And they would come over when I was in the House and say, how can we change laws so that Massachusetts can get better at biotech? And I was thinking, how can we make Massachusetts better at biotech so my kid doesn't die? I wasn't a doctor, I wasn't a scientist, but I learned real quickly. And this is what I'm talking about, what we've learned. What is the role that government plays in drug discovery? It's just as important as the science. Government doesn't get it right. We can't do the work that we need to do. And God, it's expensive too. So those first few terms in the House, it was great learning that intersection of policy innovation, making Massachusetts better. Because guys, let's take a look around. And this is off the record. There's no one from the press here, right? I believe so. Is there anyone from the press here? All right, Massachusetts, the weather sucks and the traffic's even worse. How did we become good at biotech? And we had over 100 colleges and universities. Harvard and MIT have been around for what, a couple hundred years, for crying out loud. It's like, how did we do it? The thing that changed was government, right? When government stepped up, and it started with the Republican governor, Mitt Romney, started the Massachusetts Life Science Center. Deval Patrick comes in, and Deval was like, we got to play our strengths if we're going to come out of this economic downturn in 2007, 2008. So I left the House, joined the Patrick administration, headed up business development, and we did the $10-year billion-dollar life science initiative. We banged that out because Governor Patrick said, hey, let's play our strengths. Let's look at biotech, let's look at clean tech, and let's look at the creative economy and build initiatives and try to pull ourselves out of this downturn quicker than any other parts of the country. And politicians say we shouldn't be picking winners or losers. Well, the reality is no, you should pick winners, right? You shouldn't pick losers, right? Figure out what you're good at. I mean, do you want to pick a losing scratch ticket? No, you want a winning one, right? So this is good business. So how do you create an environment so that these innovative companies can succeed, so that they can create jobs and you can recruit big companies to come here and grow? There weren't many big pharma companies here back in 2007, folks. Now 19 of the top 20 have a significant physical presence here. But it didn't happen by chance. So that 10-year billion-dollar life science initiative that Deval Patrick put in place, okay? Then you look at fast forward, Charlie Baker, Republican governor, came in and reauthorized it twice. Now you have Maura Healey, a Democratic governor. We were able to make it better every 5 years and build on it. So that, leaving the legislature and then leaving joining the Patrick administration, and then deciding to come to MassBio, and that was in 2007. I could have done John Heffernan right over here. Raise your hand, John. He was my first employee and my partner in crime because I had no idea how to run a trade association. It wasn't in my playbook. But man, we blew the place up, we rebuilt it, and our goal was to get academia, industry, and government to work together. That was our job every day. How do you get the Harvards and MITs and the UMasses to get along with the back then Partners Healthcare, which is now Mass General Brigham, and then how do you get the Genzymes, Biogens, and Integrated Genetics Institute, all these companies that were back in the beginning, how do you get them all on the page, and then how do you get government to work with them? So our job each and every day was really, really, really to get those three parties to work together. And when that happens, there isn't a problem you can't solve. There just isn't, right? No matter how bad the weather is, how bad the traffic is, you can recruit companies, you can retain talent, you can train talent, and that's what it takes to create that ecosystem. Now, going back to, when I first started serving in the House, my part-time job was working with the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation, and we set up a thing called Cystic Fibrosis Therapeutics, Inc. It was actually Joe O'Donnell, who's a hero of mine who recently passed away. His son Joey died of cystic fibrosis when he was 12. And Joe came to me the day after Bobby was born, so it was May 2nd, over 23 years ago now. And he said, why don't we go raise $100 million and buy a cure for your kid so he doesn't die like my kid did? And I said to him, what are you talking about? Buy a cure or buy a therapy? I thought doctors just invented that stuff, right? So you think about what we had to do at the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation. We got together with Dr. Bob Bell, and he invented venture philanthropy. And it was the first venture philanthropy fund in any indication or any disease out there. And our goal was to go out to raise $100 million and invest directly into companies that were doing cystic fibrosis research and clinical trials. We ended up raising about $500 million. We fast forwarded, we owned 7 to 9% of the royalties for the future Vertex drugs. We sold that in advance to Royalty Pharma for $3.2 billion, and then started investing in gene therapy and other types of modalities for cystic fibrosis. And we were one of the success stories. And fast forward over 18 years and $13 billion, I can't forget the day that my Bobby, who was CF, got a drug that worked for him. And I'm gonna cry because I'm sad. we didn't think we'd get a drug in time. And, he had one tricky mutation that my wife gave him. It was her fault. That's a genetic joke. You can do that in genetic defect households. She always tells me to shut the up after I say that. But he was pretty sick. We didn't think he'd go to college. He never took the SATs in high school. And on November 8, 2019, we found out that Vertex was going to be able to use the modulated technology with triple combination product to work for anyone that had one copy of the 508 Delta mutation, which Bobby had. Thank you.
Put it in front of me, they would think that's
So he took that drug, and since he's taken that drug, it's been under 5 years now, 5 years or so, he's grown 12 inches, gained 50 pounds. His lung function's back to what it was when he was 4 years old. He went days over to UMass Boston, graduated college, and now he works at MassBio. He has my old email and phone number, because I left. And he doesn't have my salary. Yeah, but he gets meetings. He's doing membership, and he's like, Dad, these people take meetings all the time, and then they look like they see a ghost when I show up. I go, dude, keep doing it. You've earned it. So he works over at MassBio now, and he's living a really, really good life. He's not out of the woods, right? He needs a liver transplant, but he's living, right? And he's paying taxes, and he hasn't been in the hospital for an overnight stay since he started the drug. So think of the costs avoided with a therapy like that. Yeah, it took 18 years and $13 billion to invest it, but think how much money it's going to save in the long run when it's just a generic small molecule series of pills, right? So, the whole point of this story is that we can do that, and we should do that, and we need to do that for every single disease out there. And I love what you guys do, because rare disease, think of the percentage of disease that is made up by rare disease. It's not rare. There's no such thing. It's all disease. And all these illnesses are a series of rare diseases. You got to create access for it. We got to continue to unlock the mysteries of any disease that only 10 kids in the world have, right? Because it's going to help with so many other things. And then I think of, I don't work for Vertex. I don't get paid by Vertex, nothing like that. But I can't help but be proud to think of what they were able to do with cystic fibrosis. Now you look at beta thalassemia, you look at sickle cell, changing the world in sickle cell. You look at pain, and then ultimately type 1 diabetes. There's all these other things that you can do when you succeed in this industry, and none of it happens without government. The only thing that changed in Massachusetts to make us good at we were a top 10 biotech cluster for a long time just because of the colleges and universities, and smart people would come from all over the world to get educated here. But the only thing that changed was government stepping up with a plan. And since then, MassBio's gone from 400 member companies to close to 1,400 now. You look at the fact that 19 of the top 20 pharma companies have a significant physical presence here. That stuff didn't happen by accident. It happened because government stepped up, and we need to continue to fight to ensure that they do. And we're not lobbyists, we're patient advocates that go in there and will drive politicians absolutely nuts if they don't do what they want. We put together our Rare Disease Day, and working with every disease foundation, and we'd storm on some of my favorite times with your kids was when we'd have our Patient Advocacy Day, and we'd just go storm the State House and make any politician that didn't vote with us feel like they wanted to never exist another day in their life. We made them feel so bad, and that's what you have to do, and it works, right? So I just want to thank you all for allowing me to be here. I left MassBio just about 5 years ago now, 4.5 years ago, and I just do real estate now only with life science companies, hospitals, and universities. Anyone that has a lab, so I can still kind of stay in the business, and I don't have stress anymore because I don't have to fight with Elizabeth Warren or Bernie Sanders or deal with Donald Trump, and I've never been happier and healthier. So thank you all for that.